Ever feel like you just want the quick version, the core idea behind something without getting totally bogged down?
Yeah, cutting through the noise.
Exactly. That's what we're doing today. We're taking a really focused look at random number-generated games, RNG games, like slot apps, online poker, even bits of bigger video games.
And it's funny, you might immediately think like flashing lights, casinos.
Right.
But the basic idea, chance playing a role, that goes way back. It could be as simple as, I don't know, some old school transaction with a bit of unpredictability built in.
Huh. Interesting. So, okay, for this deep dive, our mission is pretty straightforward. Give you a clear, beginner-friendly handle on what these RNG games are.
How they work, basically.
Yeah, how they tick, and why they're actually a pretty big deal in entertainment. We're keeping it concise, just the essentials.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start right at the core.
Right.
What does random even mean when we're talking about these games?
Okay, yeah. So in this context, a random event has a few key ingredients. First, there's a limited number of things that can happen.
Like sides on a die, finite.
Exactly, finite outcomes. And usually one outcome doesn't really predict the next one. They're sort of disconnected.
Incommensurable was the term.
That's the one. And each outcome has a specific chance, a probability of happening.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. You, the player, you can't mess with those probabilities. You can't control them.
Ah, so no amount of skill changes the dice roll itself.
Precisely. That unpredictability is the heart of the randomness. It means even someone who knows the game perfectly can't, force a win just by knowing stuff.
Got it. It prevents manipulation.
Yeah. And from a stats perspective, randomness is kind of like the absence of a pattern, no hidden connections between results.
Okay, makes sense. So obviously games, but where else do these random numbers pop up?
Oh, they're surprisingly common. You've got cryptography keeping stuff secure online.
Right, important stuff.
Very. And scientific simulations, modeling complex systems. But yeah, for us today, it's gaming.
And is the randomness the same quality everywhere?
That's a great question. Not always. See, in something like cryptography, you need incredibly high quality, truly unpredictable randomness. Lives could depend on it, basically.
Right.
But in gaming, often the priority is more about the player's experience. Does it feel random enough to be fun and fair?
Ah, so maybe the algorithm isn't like NSA proof, but it works to the game.
Pretty much. Different games have different needs, Some older adventure games, maybe they use simpler methods just to decide which monster pops up.
Lower stakes, less need for perfect randomness.
Exactly. The low quality requirement, as it's sometimes put, not as critical as, say, shuffling a deck in a high-stakes online poker game.
Yeah, right. Which brings us to gambling. Things like online roulette,
Yeah.
blackjack. Fairness there seems paramount.
Oh, absolutely essential.
Right.
Any decent online casino or betting site has to use RNGs. It's the foundation of fair play in their software.
How do we know they're actually fair, though?
Well, that's where regulation comes in. These RNG systems are constantly checked, audited by independent bodies.
Ah, okay. Third-party checks.
Yep. They run massive tests to make sure the results are genuinely random, not biased, not predictable. It builds that crucial player trust.
Because nobody wants to play a rigged game. And speaking of playing, this whole gaming world is just huge now, isn't it?
Massive. It's a global business, accessible basically anywhere with an internet connection. And the gambling part of it keeps growing.
I bet.
And interestingly, those gaming machines, slots, video poker, that kind of thing, they're the real moneymakers for casinos. Something like 85% of profits, often.
85%. Wow. Just from those machines.
Yeah, it's a huge slice.
Yeah.
So the industry covers everything from those machines to online poker, big casinos, even things like state lotteries.
Okay, 85%. That stuck with me. So these RNGs are clearly vital.
Yeah.
But how? How does a computer, which feels so logical, create randomness?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It feels counterintuitive. So most of the time, computers aren't using true randomness, which comes from like unpredictable physical stuff. Instead, they use something called pseudorandom number generators, PRNGs.
Pseudo-random, so fake random.
Sort of. Think of a PRNG as a really complex mathematical recipe. It starts with an initial number called a seed, which the programmer sets up.
Okay, a starting point.
Right. And then the algorithm uses that seed and the last number it generated to calculate the next number in the sequence. There's often a formula like VN, F, VN1, meaning the next value, VNN, is a function of the previous one, VN1.
So it is determined. If you knew the seed and the recipe.
Technically, yes.
Yes.
If you knew the seed and the exact algorithm, you could predict the sequence. But these algorithms are designed to be incredibly complex. The sequences they produce look random, they pass statistical tests for randomness, and they're usually super long before they repeat.
So random enough for practical purposes.
Exactly. And again, those regulatory agencies keep an eye on them to make sure the sequences aren't easily predictable or biased in any way.
Okay, so PRNGs are the workhorses. But you mentioned true randomness earlier. From physical stuff.
Right, TRNGs. True random number generators. These tap into actual physical processes that are inherently unpredictable.
Like what?
Things like atmospheric noise, the static between radio stations, or even quantum phenomena, the tiny fluctuations at the subatomic level, even radioactive decay.
Wow, okay, that sounds genuinely random, like impossible to predict.
It is. That's the gold standard for randomness.
So why aren't TRNGs used everywhere, especially in gambling?
Well, the main challenge is often speed and volume. Generating truly random numbers from physical sources can be slower or harder to get a large quantity of numbers quickly.
Ah, so a busy online casino needs numbers fast.
Millions of them, potentially.
Yep.
And some TRNG sources, while truly random, might not produce numbers fast enough. There can also be technical challenges in building and maintaining reliable TRNG hardware. Sometimes even things like memory management can introduce subtle issues if not done perfectly.
Interesting trade-offs. Speed versus perfect randomness. Okay, let's connect this back to games people actually play. Slots have got to be the classic RNG example, right?
Absolutely. Slot machines are everywhere, online and off. They're popular because they're simple to grasp.
Spin the reels, hope the symbols line up.
Pretty much. You bet, you spin, and the RNG determines where those virtual reels stop. If the symbols match a winning line on the pay table, you get paid. Could be cash, free spins, bonus rounds.
All sorts of variations now.
Oh, yeah.
So it's-
Video slots, progressive jackpots. But the core idea goes back to early mechanical ones, like the Liberty Bell, which used physical reels and combinations. The RNG is just the modern digital heart of it.
Okay. What about roulette? Also seems very chance-based.
Definitely. Roulette's another simple, classic RNG game. You've got the wheel with numbered slots, red, black, maybe a green 0 or 2.
Spin the wheel, drop the ball.
Yep. And you bet on where that little ball is going to land. Number, color, section. It's ancient, played globally, and the rules haven't actually changed that much compared to other games. The online version just uses an RNG to determine the winning number instead of a physical wheel and ball.
Straightforward luck. Then you have card games, but digital ones.
Right. So think online blackjack or video poker machines. These use RNGs to simulate shuffling and dealing cards.
So in online blackjack, the computer deals based on the RNG.
Exactly. An RNG shuffles the deck and determines which card comes next for you and the dealer. But importantly, the rules of blackjack are the same.
Meaning strategy still matters. Hitting, standing.
Absolutely. Your decisions still impact your chances of winning, even though the card sequence itself is random. Same with video poker, it's usually based on 5-card draw. The RNG gives you your initial hand, you decide which cards to keep. The RNG deals the replacements, and you get paid based on the final poker hand. You're playing against the machine's random deal, not other players.
Okay, so a mix of chance and strategy in those cases. Now, a big one. Playing these games online with money. How do you trust it's fair? We touched on testing, but it feels like a leap of faith.
It really is a crucial point. You can't see the virtual shuffle, right?
Right.
So that trust relies heavily on those independent third-party auditors and government regulators we mentioned. They run millions, even billions of simulations on the RNG software.
Looking for any weird pattern.
Exactly. Any bias, any predictability, anything that deviates from true statistical randomness. Reputable operators use certified RNGs and display those certifications. That's your main assurance. Without that certification and ongoing checks, players just wouldn't trust the game.
The whole system needs that layer of verified trust. Makes sense. Are there other things to keep in mind, like technical limits?
Yeah, for sure. Like any software, RNG games have technical constraints. Think graphics, sound effects, how many betting options there are, how fast the game runs.
So the overall experience can vary.
Definitely. And although it should be caught by testing, there's always the theoretical possibility of bugs. Poor coding or a flawed algorithm could, in rare cases, lead to results that aren't properly random or even make no sense.
So quality control is vital not just for fairness, but for the game actually working right.
Absolutely. It's about the whole package.
Looking ahead then, what's next for RNG games? Where's the tech going?
Well, constant improvement, really. Better graphics, smoother gameplay, making things more immersive.
More bells and whistles.
Kind of, yeah. But also potentially improvements in the RNGs themselves, maybe finding ways to integrate more true randomness where feasible.